Exposed, when cops assault a black woman, they discover she's their hidden boss. Hearts shattered. In the heart of Atlanta, Maya's bakery was a sanctuary. It smelled like cinnamon and sugar, and the warm yellow walls seemed to embrace everyone who stepped inside. Over a decade of kneading dough and frosting cupcakes, she had blended flour and hope into a recipe that was uniquely hers. To Maya, this was more than just a shop, it was the heartbeat of her struggling neighborhood. Every face that walked through that door was greeted not just as a customer, but as family. On a sunny afternoon, as children chased laughter down the street, she set out trays of fresh cookies and made her famous peach cobbler, readying for the after-school wave. Maya poured her heart into every swirl of frosting, the remnants of long days melted away in the sweet joy she offered others. Her teenage son, Jamal, helped in the back, their banter echoing through the cozy cafe. Together, they dreamed about the future: college for him, expansion for her bakery. Just as she wiped her hands on her apron, the warmth of community was about to be shattered. Then it happened. Two police officers, acting on a call that misinterpreted a simple misunderstanding, stormed through her door. Without a moment of thought, they were harsh and aggressive, mistaking her surprise for defiance. In an instant, what was a welcoming cozy bakery turned chaotic. A harsh shove sent Maya sprawling, her voice caught in her throat. Maya, who had always stood resolute amid life's storms, felt the sting of injustice. And the people outside? They were oblivious, unaware of the heartache unfolding within. But as the banging of fists on the counter replaced the comforting smell of cookies, her loyal customers began to gather, shock and anger boiling beneath the surface like an unsweetened batter. When news broke, the community erupted, determined voices rose outside the precinct. Maya deserves better. They chanted, fists raised. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maya lay recovering, her body aching, but her spirit ignited. As the rally gathered momentum, she felt the weight of her role. She had always supported families, hosted baking classes, and fed those in need, but now she had to step into the spotlight. Tensions would pour like melted chocolate at a community meeting, a space where the hard truths of racial bias would spill onto the table, raw and unfiltered. Standing before the microphone, every heartbeat echoed in the crowded room. Maya's voice quivered but then thickened with strength. "I'm not just a baker," she declared, "I am a mother, a neighbor, a voice for those who don't have one." Eyes widened as she held the crowd enraptured, revealing the truth of not just her pain but their shared struggles. As silence hung in the air, the officers who confronted her shifted uncomfortably, realizing they faced more than they'd ever known. Could they reconcile the truth of their biases with the person they had wronged? Would this bakery, with its sugar-sweet aroma, lead to a conversation that could heal? As Maya delivered her plea for justice and understanding, it felt like the tremors of history were shaking them all awake. Truth was now a treat they all had to digest, and the journey ahead felt as immense as a towering cake, hopefully precarious. The question loomed, could the hearts shattered find a way to mend? The story had only just begun. The room was still charged with the electric energy of Maya's words. They hovered like a bakery's freshly baked scent, wafting through the air, pulling hearts together in a shared understanding. Those who had gathered in the community center were not just there for her, they were there for themselves, for the countless moments of injustice they had faced, often in silence. With each passing moment, they felt emboldened. The officers, once stoic, their badges gleaming like beacons of authority, now shifted uncomfortably. Maya's words were a mirror they had never looked into, reflecting their own biases and behaviors back at them. The weight of her truths hung heavy, feelings of guilt and shame crashing over them like waves. It was an unfamiliar landscape for them and for her. From the back of the room, Jamal watched, his heart swelling with pride. His mother, always the quiet pillar of strength, now stood fierce and unapologetic. The pain she had endured transformed into a call for change, not just for their family but for the entire community. He felt a mix of admiration and protectiveness. Maya had forged an unyielding resolve, yet he worried about the toll it would take, both on her and on those who dared to confront their own demons. As the meeting continued, people began to share their own stories. A young woman spoke of a traffic stop that ended with an officer yelling at her, scared and shaking. An elderly man recounted the years he had faced disdain in a neighborhood that once embraced him. With each story, a chorus of voices joined the refrain of pain and resilience, slowly reshaping the narrative from one of division to one of unity. Maya listened, tears glistening in her eyes. The bakery that once offered pastries now served hope, a symbol of what they could build together if they chose understanding over aggression. But this moment of healing also brought a cautious realization: it wouldn't be easy. They were standing on the threshold of something significant, but the path was strewn with doubts and fears. The officers, visibly affected, began to break their silence. One of them, a woman with lines of worry etched on her forehead, took a step forward. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I see now. I didn't understand. We can do better." The community murmured, a mix of disbelief and hope. Could this really be the beginning of a new dialogue? Maya raised her hand, steadying the room. "Thank you," she said, her voice calm yet powerful. "But sorry isn't enough. We need action. If we truly want change, it starts now." The air felt charged once again. The reality settling in. It was one thing to apologize, it was another to dedicate themselves to a future filled with accountability and compassion. The melody of that heartfelt meeting lingered in the air long after it ended. As people left, they shared thoughts of change, perhaps igniting the beginnings of programs and workshops that would bridge the gaps between law enforcement and the community. Yet, as Maya closed the bakery that night, fatigue clawed at her, with every ache in her body reminding her of what had transpired. Just as she signed off for the day, her phone buzzed. A message showed on the screen, a reminder of the rally planned for the following week. Activists wanted her to speak. Now, she faced a daunting decision. Would she take the stage again, risking further anguish for the sake of justice? A small voice inside whispered doubt, but the louder voice called for hope. As she closed her eyes that night, she felt the weight of her community's expectations, full of hope but burdened by reality. The thought settled in her mind: was she ready to carry the torch for justice? Could they really inspire change? The question lingered as darkness fell, holding secrets that could unravel or uplift. What would come next? The sun broke through the thin cracks of Maya's kitchen window, casting golden streams of light across the countertop cluttered with flour and sugar. She sighed, still feeling the exhaustion from the night before. Every word exchanged, every tear shed during the meeting had left her exhilarated yet drained. She brewed a pot of coffee, letting the aroma fill the air, grounding her in the reality of the present. Jamal walked in, his brows furrowed as he leaned against the doorframe. "So, did you decide?" He searched her face for answers, his youthful exuberance wrapped in concern. Maya turned to him, her heart heavy. "It's not just about what I want, Jamal. This rally isn't just for us, it's for everyone who has suffered. What if I can't deliver? What if I falter when they need strength?" Jamal stepped closer, placing his hand on her shoulder. "You've already shown them strength. They saw it last night, Mom. You inspired them. They need someone to rise up, and that person is you." Her heart swelled with pride, yet anxiety clung to her like a shadow. She turned to the window, watching the world waking outside. Children played, laughter floated on the morning air, but in the back of her mind, the memories of injustice loomed like dark clouds. Would she be able to face those who wielded authority yet failed to protect? After exchanging a few more words with Jamal, Maya filled her backpack with pamphlets for the rally, notes scribbled on scraps of paper, ideas of what she wanted to say. As she stepped out, uncertainty wrapped around her like a cloak, but the burning desire for change sparked a fire within. She couldn't turn back now. Not after everything. At the rally, the crowd surged with anticipation, their faces a tapestry of hope, determination, and weary acceptance. As Maya approached the stage, her stomach twisted into knots, but she steadied herself, breathing deeply. Voices melded into a rising tide, and she felt the power of unity wash over her. Then came the moment she'd been both anticipating and dreading. The microphone crackled as she stepped forward, the crowd quieting, eyes locked on her. She opened her mouth, and the silence thickened. "Thank you all for being here," she began, heart pounding. "We are not just voices in the wind, we are a storm ready to break barriers." Cheers erupted from the crowd, sending shivers down her spine. She spoke of resilience, of transformation, and justice, not just for her community, but for every stranger who wandered through life misunderstood. But even in this moment of elevation, she noticed them, the officers standing off to the side, their expressions unreadable. Would they listen or reject her? She pressed on, her words pouring out like the dough she kneaded in her bakery, forming a foundation strong enough to build a better future. Midway through her speech, a commotion rippled through the crowd. Maya's eyes darted toward the officers, who seemed to be having a hushed argument. She could barely keep her focus as they gestured animatedly. What was happening? Were they going to dismiss her message? Suddenly, a tall officer stepped forward, his face a mixture of concern and confusion. "Ma'am, excuse me?" His voice cut through the crowd. "Can I speak?" The audience watched, breaths held in collective suspense. Maya felt a familiar tightening in her chest. What did he want? Was he ready to genuinely engage or just maintain the status quo? "Are you ready for a real conversation about what happens next?" Maya's thoughts raced. Would this be an opportunity or just another distraction? As the crowd quieted, the weight of possibility hung in the air, ready to shape the course of their lives. Could they really break barriers, or was this moment just a fleeting glimpse of hope? What awaited them inside the tangled web of truth, tension, and the yearning for change? Would this be the first step to addressing the long-held pain, or would it unveil deeper fractures they hadn't yet anticipated? The heart of the community fluttered, sensitive to the fragile balance of fear and hope. The murmurs grew louder around Maya as the officer's words settled over them like a heavy blanket. She felt the air thickening, uncertainty swirling. Would he validate their struggle or condemn it? She focused on his expression, serious yet almost vulnerable. Behind him, the assembled crowd waited, a sea of faces reflecting a mix of hope and apprehension. "Who are you?" One voice called from the back, breaking the tension. A young man stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Why should we trust you?" Maya felt a knot form in her throat. She wasn't sure what this officer wanted or what he could offer. "I'm here to listen," he said, raising a hand to quiet the group. "I know there's pain, and it's time we start talking about how to heal it, together." Healing. The word echoed in her mind. Could they really come together after so much hurt? "Your anger is justified," the officer continued, his gaze shifting around the crowd. "I see that now. There's been a rift for too long, and I think it's time we bridge that gap. Can we discuss what it means to keep this community safe while respecting everyone's rights?" Maya's heart raced. The idea of bullets being traded for words was daunting, yet exhilarating. Was this truly the change they all yearned for? "Talk is cheap," someone shouted, and many nodded in agreement. It was time for action. "I get it," the officer acknowledged, his tone softening. "But I can assure you that I want to be part of that action. I want this to be the start of something real. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it has to start somewhere." Maya took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. They needed to find common ground, but trust was the first hurdle. "If you're sincere, prove it," she urged, stepping closer to the stage edge. "What does change look like to you?" He paused, clearly taken aback, but Maya saw a flicker of determination. It means accountability. Community seminars. Understanding each other's stories. I want to involve officers in your activities and volunteer work. Let us be a part of your lives. Another voice rang out, louder than before, and what if we don't want you there? The tension shifted back into the crowd, sparks of dissent igniting again. Conversations broke out, animated debates about whether they wanted the police involved at all. A tidal wave of opinions flooded in, some hopeful and others skeptical. Maybe we could start small, Maya suggested, raising her hand for attention again. What if we set up community meetings where we can all share our experiences? Let us bring in officers and allow space for open dialogue. We can create a space where no one feels attacked or unheard. Would you put your badge on the line? Someone called out. Would you support us when things get tough? I would, the officer replied without missing a beat. I'm committed to changing the way we operate. We're not just here to enforce laws, we're here to nurture community. But I need your help to do that. Maya absorbed the officer's words. Could this moment catalyze a movement they desperately needed? Hope shimmered just beyond the haze, but the distant echo of doubt lingered in her mind. Suddenly, another officer stepped forward, clearly annoyed. You don't have a choice. You protect the law, not these. He hesitated, gesturing at the onlookers, as if he couldn't find the right words. Tension rose, fear gripping the crowd. Instinctively, Maya's heart sank. Let us not escalate this, Maya said, trying to steady her voice. All we want is clarity, understanding. And if this conversation leads to action, we can stand together. But as the crowd wavered between tension and hope, Maya sensed fraying nerves, the push and pull of distrust. What would it take to make this entire narrative shift? The officer's gaze held hers, a silent challenge echoing between them. Was this the moment they leaned into change or allowed the fear to pull them under? Just then, the whispers grew louder, and Maya felt her stomach twist again. A woman near the front fainted, collapsing into the arms of a friend, and chaos rippled through the crowd like an electric shock. Would this vulnerable fracture break the fragile trust they were building, or could they move forward, even after the momentous fallout? Would they end up entangled in even more chaos than before? Maya's heart raced as the crowd shifted, a wave of bodies flinching away from the woman who had collapsed. Hands gripped shoulders, and worried faces turned towards the officer on stage. His initial determination wavered, replaced by alarm. Call for an ambulance. He shouted, but the urgency in his voice only added to the tension. Maya's mind spun. She had felt the pressure building, but this? This was a whole new level of chaos. There were whispers of panic, eyes darting between the fallen woman and the officer, as if he alone could fix everything. Get back! Someone screamed from the front, nudging people away from the scene. A younger man knelt by the woman, checking for signs of life. His hands trembled, desperation etched into his face. She's breathing. Just help her. Maya's chest tightened. She wanted to rush forward, but her legs felt like concrete. It was a mess more than they had anticipated. The officer on stage stepped down, moving through the crowd, shouting instructions, pulling in bystanders to assist. Someone get water. The cries filled the air. In the blink of an eye, with everyone confronting their fears and the unknown, she could feel the fragile trust they had begun to build fraying at the edges. The laughter of hope had turned to sharp intakes of breath, the weight of uncertainty settled heavy on the crowd. Maya stepped forward, grabbing his attention. What is her name? She called out to the man leaning over the collapsed woman, desperately trying to stir her. Do you know her? Candace. He shouted back, still focusing on the woman, his voice strained. Candace, can you hear me? Maya's heart sank. Candace was one of the people she had seen protesting at the edge of the park for months, fighting for their community. A surge of guilt washed over her, she had thought her fight was only for her own voice. But now, it was for Candace too. Let us give her space. The officer called out, but a few people pushed in closer, needing to see, needing to help, mixing protective instincts with raw desperation. Maya felt the officer's gaze shoot toward her, pleading. Help me. He whispered, something raw and unguarded in his eyes. She nodded, finally finding her resolve. They needed to pull together now more than ever. Everyone, please. Stand back. Maya projected her voice, her heart pounding against her ribs. Candace needs air. Make room. Slowly the crowd complied, creating a small circle around the two. The officer knelt down next to the man, offering his own jacket for comfort, the fabric sliding off his shoulders like a weight. Stay with her, Candace, the man urged, smoothing her hair back gently. Help is coming. The crowd began to murmur, anxiety flickering through the air. Maya could hear snippets of conversation, fragments caught in between fear and hope. Will she be okay? Is the ambulance even on the way? Can they really help? The officer shot her an intense look, as if to say, this is our moment. Maya channeled the strength that swelled within her. She raised her voice again. Look at us. We're all here, fighting for unity. Candace fought for us too. She shouldn't have to do this alone. The energy shifted. Rather than just spectators, they began to transform into a collective. Murmurs shifted to a chant, hushed voices rallying behind the need for one another. Candace. 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 With every chant, hope surged back, feeding into the fragile moment. Maya realized now that they weren't simply entangled, they were woven into something far more powerful than fear. But as the sirens grew louder, closing in, Maya knew one truth: unity in this moment could be a step forward, but was it enough to bridge the divide that had haunted their community? As the paramedics arrived, would they rise together to heal wounds that ran deeper than the physical? Or would the pulse of their emerging solidarity quickly fade into the background? Maya's breath hitched. The crowd shifted again, eyes wide, silent as the door opened to reveal the team stepping out, their purpose undeniable. Would this be the affirmation they craved, or a confrontation that shattered it all? The door swung open, revealing a team of paramedics clad in bright yellow uniforms, their faces set with grim determination. They moved swiftly, a well-oiled machine ready to face the chaos unfolding around them. Maya's heart raced, a confusing mix of hope and dread colliding in her chest. She took a step back, letting the professionals in but wanting to stay close to Candace. The crowd hushed, uncertainty weaving through their collective breath. The younger man who had been kneeling by Candace's side stood up, his hands trembling as the paramedics approached. The lead medic, a woman with focused eyes and a calm demeanor, quickly assessed the situation. What happened? She asked, keeping her voice steady, yet urgent. She just collapsed. We were protesting, and she was fine one moment, then he faltered, tears springing to his eyes. Please, she needs help. Maya watched as the medic nodded, clearly accustomed to high-pressure situations. The team worked efficiently, positioning Candace on a stretcher. Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her as they pulled out equipment, the sharpness of their professionalism cutting through the lingering panic. As Candace was carefully lifted, the crowd instinctively spread back again, a human tide falling away to give them space. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that even in this moment of crisis, they were all still connected, one pulsing heartbeat of unity, centered around one woman fighting for her life. Who did this? Not quite a shout, the officer's voice rang out, laced with authority that turned heads. The question hovered in the air, a gaping void, as if it could somehow draw the truth from their midst. Maya felt a chill creep down her spine. Before anyone could respond, anger flared to life in the crowd. We were just protesting. We deserve to be heard. A woman stepped forward, her voice trembling with passion. What happened to Candace was wrong. The officer frowned, glancing back at the medic team, who remained focused on their task. "We need to keep order," he said, his voice strained. But the weight of his authority seemed to falter in the face of shared outrage. Maya shifted uneasily, feeling the divide between what needed to be said and what needed to be done. "They're right," she spoke up, her voice rising. "This isn't just about Candace. It's about all of us." Just then, the sound of a siren echoed from a distance, as another squad car pulled up. Something shifted in the atmosphere, as if the air had thickened. Many faces grew tense as the police emerged, and whispers of dissent danced through the crowd like sparks on dry grass. "Maya!" a friend called out, breaking through her thoughts. "They're gathering more cops. What is going to happen?" As the officers mingled with the paramedics, tension crackled. It was no longer just about helping Candace, it was about the very fabric of their community coming undone at the seams. Maya's pulse raced, anxiety gripping her as she realized how precarious their unity truly was. "Listen," she implored to those around her. "If we stand together, they can't ignore us. We can channel this energy into something powerful." The murmurs grew louder, her words echoing in the hearts of those who felt the same fire igniting within them. Yet, as Maya watched the officers approach Candace's stretcher, fear gnawed at her. Would their trust hold? Could they harness this moment for change? Would this be a breaking point, or a rallying cry for the community? As she scanned the faces around her, questions bubbled up, mingling with determination. What would they choose to fight for next? The answer hung heavily in the air, just out of reach. The crowd began to swell again, a swelling tide of voices and emotions. Maya could feel the shift around her. Anger and fear fused, creating an electric atmosphere, palpable and raw. Eyes darted toward the police officers, new arrivals with their dark uniforms and hardened expressions, standing like sentinels against the group's burgeoning fury. "Everyone stay calm," one officer shouted, his voice booming over the chaos. "We're here to maintain the peace." But the words fell flat, drowned out by the growing discontent. Maya could sense the rising tide, the determination to stand their ground against the oppression they felt. With the paramedics wheeling Candace away, a ripple of desperation surged through her. "We can't let this go. We have to fight for her," Maya continued, her voice rising above the noise. She could see the eyes of the crowd shift, the spark of unity igniting again, but she knew the real battle lay ahead. Would they stand strong together, or would the fear of the uniform push them back into silence? Someone in the crowd shouted, "Who's with us?" Maya's heart raced as she felt a collective roar in response, hands raised, voices shouting in affirmation. But just then, an older man with gray streaks in his beard stepped forward, his expression grave. "This isn't just about Candace anymore. They'll retaliate if we push back too hard." A pang of doubt shot through Maya. Would they really turn on each other? Her gaze swept through the assembled faces, some were resolute, others fearful, and a few looked ready to flee. In that moment, she understood that the fight before them was bigger than one person. It was about overcoming years of silence, oppression, and lost voices. The lead officer moved forward again, tense and authoritative. "We're going to clear this area. This is a public disturbance." That statement only fueled the anger. "We're not going anywhere," a woman in the front yelled, shaking her fist defiantly. Maya felt something shifting inside herself, a fierce resolve taking root. She stepped forward, lifting her chin. "We are here for each other. We stand together as a community. We will expose what happened to Candace." The crowd echoed her defiance, chants now forming a rhythmic mantra, "Candace. Candace." She was no longer alone. They were bonding in this moment, their voices intertwining like threads in a tapestry, strong and vibrant, but the officers looked poised for confrontation. Maya caught the flash of a baton, a sinister promise lingering in the air. Her stomach tightened. Would they really turn violent? Would this spark ignite an uncontrollable fire? Then, just as the shouts intensified, a sickening crash erupted from the back of the crowd. Someone shrieked. Maya turned, breath hitching in her throat. Behind them, a protester had been pushed to the ground by an officer, the chaos boiling into a simmering rage. People pushed forward, trying to intervene, and in that moment, everything felt like it was about to erupt. "Stop!" Maya shouted, but the reality of their situation was racing ahead of her. As she struggled to breathe, fear mingled with determination. This could break them or build them into something unstoppable. Would they be able to turn this pain into power? Would they protect one another? All she knew was that they had to fight, not just for Candace, but for everyone who had ever felt unheard. The question lingered, heavy in the air as the crowd shifted and swelled like a wave preparing to crash. What would happen next? The crowd remained on the precipice of change, and Maya could only hope their voices would carry them through the storm that loomed ahead. Maya's heart raced as she watched the chaotic scene unfold. The atmosphere crackled with tension, each breath feeling heavier than the last. She could see faces around her, a mix of fear, anger, and determination. They were on the brink of something powerful, but one wrong move could send everything spiraling out of control. "Back off!" Someone yelled, pushing forward to defend the fallen protester. The crowd instinctively surged, fueled by adrenaline and outrage. In that moment, it felt like the world had shifted. No longer just a protest, this was a stand against the injustice they had tolerated for too long. A few voices cried out for calm, but those were drowned out in the sea of screams. Maya felt the heat engulfing her, but it was a heat of conviction, of purpose. "Stop the violence. We're not here to fight each other, we're here to fight for our right to be heard." She shouted, reaching deep for every ounce of strength she had. The older man with the gray beard stepped back, visibly shaken but still focused. "Maya. It's too dangerous." He called, but his words barely registered. All she could hear was the pulse of the crowd, the thrum of their collective heartbeat. In the chaos, she caught a glimpse of a woman standing nearby, tears streaming down her face. It was Sarah, a local teacher, someone who had always been a voice of reason in the community. Maya's heart twisted. "Sarah, we need you. Your voice matters." Maya urged, her tone full of urgency. Sarah wiped her tears and stepped forward, her trembling hands raised. "Listen. We have to stand united. If we let fear dictate our actions now, we lose everything. Candace isn't just a victim, she's a symbol of our fight for justice." The crowd roared in response. Their voices merged into a chorus, an anthem of resistance. The more they fought back against the officers' intimidation, the more empowered they felt. In that moment, they were not just individuals, they were a community, one fueled by shared pain and collective hope. But just then, the sound of a taser crackled through the air, slicing the unity like a knife. Maya whipped her head toward the source, dread pooling in her stomach. An officer had drawn his weapon, aiming it at the crowd. Panic erupted. People scrambled, trying to distance themselves from the looming threat. "Stay together," Maya shouted, but her own voice felt small against the backdrop of fear. The energy of the crowd shifted again, uncertainty creeping in. Would they scatter, allowing the police to divide and conquer? Or would they hold their ground? Maya clenched her fists, willing herself to stand firm. This was it. The moment separated them from complacency. The moment that defined their resolve amidst chaos. "We are stronger together. We will not let fear silence us," she cried, her voice rising above the din of chaos. But another officer joined the fray, and suddenly, the tide shifted too quickly. A shield of uniforms advanced, pushing people back, forcing them to choose between safety and solidarity. Fear hung like a dark cloud, threatening to drown their bravery. Would they succumb to intimidation, or would Maya's words echo in their hearts, stirring the flames of courage? As fists balled and breaths quickened, Maya locked eyes with the officer brandishing the taser. In that moment, an unexpected thought crossed her mind: what if they could expose the truth behind this corruption, behind the faceless bureaucracy that had dehumanized people like them? A whirlwind of possibilities opened up, but could they stick together long enough to make that truth known? Just as doubt threatened to spiral in her mind, the confrontation broke out, and everything she feared started to seem all too real. Would this stand lead to a breaking point or a breakthrough? Maya couldn't shake the thought. What would it take to reveal the true nature of their fight, the power hidden beneath their pain? As the confrontation escalated and the crowd surged again, she knew the battle had only just begun. The real question now loomed ominously: what sacrifices were they willing to make for their voices to be heard? Maya's voice rang out, cutting through the noise like a beacon in a storm. She held her ground, eyes wild with determination, as the crowd around her seemed to shift in slow motion. Bodies pressed against one another, a sea of humanity pulsating with fear and rage. It was raw, it was real, and it was alive. "Don't back down," someone shouted from within the crowd, echoing Maya's spirit. Encouragement sparked like a match in a darkened room. A few steps back, an older woman linked arms with a young man beside her. "We're not afraid. Not now," she cried, emboldening others to stand firm. Maya could see it. Unity was bubbling back to the surface. It had been a flicker bright enough to cut through the confusion. But the sound of the taser crackled again, and she felt another wave of fear ripple through the people. "Stay together. Don't let them divide us," she urged, her heart racing as she fought against the rising panic. The officers pushed closer, trying to corral the crowd, to intimidate them with their badges and weapons. But in the faces of those around her, Maya sensed something shifting. Hope mingled with fear, igniting a fragile flame of courage. "Remember Candace," someone yelled, referencing the fallen protester. "Remember why we're here." The name struck a chord, infusing a new energy in the crowd. Maya felt the resolve growing, mixing with the adrenaline. Suddenly, someone pushed forward, an enormous man with a booming voice. He stood tall, towering over the officers, and with every ounce of power in his body, he proclaimed, "You will not silence us. We are here to be heard." A crackle of electricity charged the air as people began to chant, their voices rising in unison, shaking the very ground beneath them. The officers hesitated, taken aback by the overwhelming strength of the crowd. But just then, another officer raised his taser even higher, a threatening stance that sent a shiver down Maya's spine. "Back! Back!" the officer shouted through his mask, trying to reclaim control. But panic only fed the chants, and Maya watched as the crowd leaned into the collective moment. It was electric, so many individual voices transforming into one single roar, a powerful reminder that they were not alone. Amid the chaos, Maya noticed Sarah, now taking a step forward again. "We're fighting for something bigger than ourselves," she frantically reminded everyone. "This is about our community, our future." Maya felt a swell of emotion threaten to spill over. The faces around her were a tapestry of pain, yet hope glimmered, fragile but persistent. She reached out, grasping Sarah's hand. "We can do this," she whispered, and in that moment, it was like they each pulled on the strength of the other. As the atmosphere crackled, a sudden movement from the back of the crowd caught Maya's eye. A figure was diving through the throng toward the front, towards the officers, someone she recognized. It was Matt, a fellow organizer, running faster than she'd ever seen him. "Maya!" he shouted, breathless as he reached her side. "We've got a plan. They're coming, and we need to take action now, before it's too late." Time felt suspended as his message sank in. Maya's heart raced, not just from fear, but from something deeper. Something that whispered of change, a chance to define their moment, to fight back against everything that had been done to them. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everyone watching, their eyes bright with determination. "Then let us show them who we are," she cried, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could feel the collective power swell once more, and she knew this was the moment they had been waiting for, the spark that might ignite real change. But as the police moved to tighten their grip, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the road ahead would demand more than words. How far would they be willing to go? The thought echoed in her mind, heavy and unyielding, leaving her to wonder what sacrifices they might have to make to finally have their voices heard. As the crowd surged forward, fueled by courage, hope, and an unyielding desire for justice, Maya braced herself for the confrontation that was about to unfold. Would they stand strong in their collective power, or would fear unravel everything they had fought for? The answer loomed large as the tension cracked, each breath a reminder that the fight was escalating, and their resolve would soon be tested. Maya stood at the forefront, fire igniting in her eyes. It was time to confront their reality. The crowd surged forward, hearts pounding as a unified force against oppression. In that charged moment, they were not just individuals, they were a community, standing together to fight for their rights and for Candace. The officer with the taser glared at her, but Maya refused to back down. "You will not intimidate us," she shouted, her voice clear and strong. The faces around her mirrored her determination, turning fear into purpose. Each chant of Candace echoed through the air like a battle cry. Matt stepped beside her, his enthusiasm contagious. "We're here for change. This isn't just a protest, it's a revolution." His words fueled the crowd. They began to shout louder, resisting the weight of authority pressing down upon them. Maya could feel the momentum building, a wave of power crashing against the barriers separating them from justice. Suddenly, the officers moved in unison, shields raised, batons ready. Maya's heart raced as she felt the danger drawing closer. The figure of the giant man at the front stood resolute, arms crossed defiantly, his presence grounding the others. "We'll protect each other," he roared, and the crowd echoed, "Together! Together!" As a few officers advanced, Maya witnessed the tide shift. People began to link arms, forming a solid line of solidarity. The fabric of their community, once frayed and fragile, was now a tapestry of strength. They pushed back against the police's attempt to control their gathering, refusing to be swept aside. But Maya knew the stakes. This isn't about defiance. She called out, raising her hands high, calling for calm. This is about our voices being heard. About healing. We're demanding respect, not violence. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. The officers hesitated, unsure of their next move. Then, the tension broke, splitting the air like thunder. "You should have thought of that before," one officer snapped, stepping forward. Maya felt panic rise again, but then Matt's reassuring presence bolstered her. "Fight with our words, not our fists," he shouted, echoing thoughts coursing through her. This was their moment to show the world that their strength didn't lie in aggression, but in resilience, in unity. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, realization dawning. They weren't alone, they were family, friends, neighbors, allies, all intertwined in purpose. Tears reflected determination. Maya raised her voice once more, "From this day forward, we will be a voice. A voice for Candace, for each other, for our children. Together, we can create change." The crowd roared back, a symphony of strength. The officers exchanged glances, uncertainty creeping in again. They hadn't prepared for this display of unwavering spirit. Just then, the ambulance whirred nearby, lights flashing, its sirens piercing the tension. Candace was being taken care of, they needed to stand strong for her now. "Make room!" shouted one of the paramedics, but Maya called above the noise. "They need access. Don't lose focus." The crowd took a step back, allowing the medics through, channeling their energy into ensuring Candace received the help she deserved. "See?" Maya smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "We can do this together." The moment felt monumental, their determination palpable. They were taking control of their narrative, transforming pain into progress. Then, from the back, a voice cried out, "We want change. We want accountability. The crowd roared approval, igniting sparks of hope for justice woven into the very air they breathed. Tomorrow starts today, shouted Matt, capturing the energy of commitment. Let us create a plan to connect with every officer so that we can build a relationship based on trust. As the crowd nodded, faces bright with resolve, Maya felt her heart swell. She could see the future unfolding, a landscape of understanding, respect, and shared humanity blooming where division once thrived. Slowly, the officers, hesitant but compelled by the overwhelming spirit, lowered their shields, a gesture of good faith. "We'll listen," one officer spoke, his tone a stark contrast to the authority they radiated just moments ago. "We won't ignore your voices any longer." Cheers and applause erupted, harmony blossoming in the air. Could they have actually turned the tide? Maya's heart was full, tears brimming. "Then, let us start together. Each one of us has a part to play in this." The stage was set, the community was ready to rise. Together they would channel hope into action, transforming pain into power, sparking the change they had always yearned for. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Maya knew they had crossed the threshold. Together, hand in hand, they had begun a new chapter, one that promised to honor not just Candace, but every voice waiting to be heard. So, what are you waiting for? This is your moment to shine alongside them. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that drive these transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let your support echo. Comment your thoughts, your feelings about this journey, and how you feel now. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative stand for justice. Don't wait not even one more second. Let us honor voices and spark change together.